The Cambodian genocide occurred on the 17th of April 1975 and finished in January 1979. The genocide took place in Cambodia, which is situated between Thailand and Vietnam. The Party of Democratic Kampuchea, also known as the Khmer Rouge, led by Pol Pot, were the perpetrators. This clip describes the background of the Khmer Rouge.
They'd started small, just a rebel group in a distant jungle fighting against a beloved king. But everything changed when America began to bomb Cambodia. Without even declaring war, they began bombing the country in force. The United States dropped more explosives on Cambodia than were dropped in the entirety of World War II by all the Allies combined. It was meant to stop communist guerrillas, but it only made more of them.
In 1975, the Khmer Rouge invaded Cambodia and seized the capital city of Phnom Penh. Vietnam and China supplied arms and troops to support the Khmer Rouge's invasion, as they supported the communist ideal of the group. Before the attack, the Khmer Rouge identified which groups they wanted to exterminate, so when they had complete rule over Phnom Penh, they immediately began the second stage of genocide, symbolization. An example of symbolization is that people from the Eastern Zone were forced to wear a blue scarf, similar to Jews being forced to wear a Star of David. The people who carried out the orders of the Khmer Rouge were the National Army of Democratic Kampuchea, NADK. They split Cambodia into different sections based on the type of people in that area, for example, religious groups. The victims of the Khmer Rouge were religious minorities, namely Buddhists, Chams, Christians, previous military and political personnel, minority ethnic groups, and intellectuals. An intellectual was someone who had a profession or spoke multiple languages. Essentially, they hoped to have an obedient lower working class who could carry out the Khmer Rouge's dreams of a communist society that could never rebel. They employed many strategies to dehumanize their enemies. One such strategy was splitting people into different social classes that respected the amount of trust the Khmer Rouge had in them. People who they trusted more were called old citizens, while the educated city dwellers, who were largely in support of the West, were dubbed new citizens. Those who were considered new citizens received fewer rights, respect, and opportunities in the Cambodian society. The new government released waves of hate propaganda that classified intellectuals, religious groups, and ethnic minorities as worms who gnawed the bowels from within, and who represented no loss when weeded out. Essentially, this propaganda and media encouraged the Khmer Rouge's higher social classes to act against their neighbours. Violence was greatly glorified, and a society that could be devoid of weakness was presented to the socio-political body. NADK was instrumental in moving enemies from cities to the countryside, where they would stay as guards, impose rules, and force civilians into farming, building, or digging. This image pictures NADK soldiers on the march. To assist the genocide, labour camps, collective farms, and labour brigades were established in the countryside, so previous city dwellers were immediately put to work. Labour brigades were comprised of people who, under threat of death, travelled from place to place to work on community projects in different areas. Hundreds of thousands of Cambodians starved to death while working on projects around the country. Essentially, they were mobile labour camps. Their conditions were purposely poor, and workers weren't given nearly enough food or water to replenish the energy used to work some 14 hours a day. City, religious, or ethnic children were taken from their families and essentially forced to work to death in labour camps. A wide range of people worked in labour camps. They all received no medicine despite raging diseases, as well as little food, water, and rest. Anyone who resisted was killed on the spot. This map shows the location of mass burial sites that occurred throughout the genocide. Most of the religious groups, especially Buddhists and Muslims, the Cham, were killed in mass slaughters. Many villages that housed these minorities were attacked and burned to the ground, often leaving no survivors. By 1979, 1.5 million to 2 million were dead, 19 to 25% of the population. A total of 385,000 people who were religious or from an ethnic minority were dead. The source shows the amount of death the genocide caused. The genocide ended in January 1979 when Vietnamese forces, who now saw the horrors the Khmer Rouge were inflicting, invaded Cambodia and seized the capital city of Phnom Penh. Many of the higher leaders in the Khmer Rouge were found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment. Most of the lower-ranking officials slipped away after Vietnam took control and haven't been seen since. In the immediate aftermath, the United States refused to call the genocide a genocide. In 1985, the Cambodia Prime Minister Hun Sen alleged that China had been behind the Khmer Rouge, but China denied its involvement. However, evidence suggests that they were a major arms supplier to the Khmer Rouge. After the genocide, Cambodia hoped for a fresh start. In 2013, a bill was passed that prohibited the denial of the genocide.